checking out everything. Hope everything's working. Said we live right now. Oh, yes, we live. Trying to see. Thank you for everybody checking in. We're going to have an interesting show for you all. I'm just trying to figure out some new technology here for the new year, and I look forward to improving as we move along. Hope you can hear me fine. Interesting. It's supposed to snow again. I'm in Memphis, below the Mason-Dixon line in good old USF of A. I think y'all can see me all right. Sorry for the resolution, but we'll get on with the show. Definitely get on with the show. All right, y'all see I can hear me. Thank you, Brother Don Smokes. Thank you, Milwaukee. Deborah Randall, everybody. I guess I get on with the show today. Hello? Okay, people can hear me still. Can y'all hear me? Let's see. Can y'all still hear me? Can you hear me out there? Let's see. All right, excellent. Okay, let me get on with the show. Thank you all, family, for tuning in to We All Be TV, and we'll get on with it. I want to talk a little bit about the MLK thing because you all know that 2018 marks the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I think it's very important because of stuff that's going on right now and people are looking for people to follow or people to have answers. Sometimes the best way to receive an answer is to be quiet, is to stand still and meditate. Silence can be your friend sometimes. But I always want to tell people, because I think it's fascinating, when we talk about Martin Luther King Jr., people get caught up in some interesting things. Like I remember a couple years ago, I was at a conference down in Atlanta, Dr. King's birthplace, and I was talking to civil rights veterans. And after the presentation that the civil rights veterans had, some people would come up to me and make it their duty to tell me things about Dr. King, about his personal life that I really didn't care for. Being from Memphis, you hear a lot of things about what happened the last 48 hours or 72 hours of Dr. King's life. And people always talk about, well, he had a threesome before he died, and I said, well, they shot him in the face, I mean, he had a threesome, but he got shot in the face, right? The things that people are fascinated with. And I look at what happened this past December, the early days of this year with, I'm gonna bring it up to Tariq Nasheed and Dr. Umar Johnson and Boyce Watkins situation. And my thing is, I don't believe that Dr. King and Malcolm X and any of these so-called leaders, not even Omega Evers, could survive the social media age. There's no such thing as privacy anymore. We are all very connected right now. I don't think they could survive a scandal in this social media age, because a lot of us got this love and hip-hop mentality, the housewives mentality, like what Brother Judge Joe Brown will always talk about. You give the people bread and circuses, and they won't care about the truth. They won't care about things that will actually liberate them. But a lot of things that are being done to us as a people are meant to enslave us, to limit our reality of ourselves and our potential. I think y'all can hear me. Okay, cool. And the thing about it is that Dr. King was not killed because of alleged orgies or plagiarizing his dissertation, his doctorate paper. He was not killed for that by the U.S. government. It was proven December 8th, 1999, in U.S. Civil Court in Memphis, Tennessee, that Dr. King was killed by the U.S. government. The U.S. government killed Dr. King because, like in the words of Baba Dick Gregory, he was about to become the first black person in U.S. history to actually affect public policy. And repetition is a cornerstone of learning. So sometimes you got to repeat yourself to make yourself clear. You got to repeat yourself to make yourself clear. Dr. King was killed by the U.S. government. In the U.S. Court of Law, U.S. Civil Court here in Memphis, December 8th, 1999, the U.S. government was found complicit in the assassination of Dr. King. I had the good fortune about almost 3 years ago of hearing Reverend Albert Sampson speak at Dr. King's crucifixion site in Memphis, Tennessee, once known as the Lorraine Motel, now known as the National Civil Rights Museum. Reverend Albert Sampson was actually ordained as a minister, one of three, by Dr. King himself. And he was the housing director for Dr. King's SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And he said in the speech he gave almost 3 years ago, and I recorded this is on our We All Be TV channel, that Dr. King held a conference. He called a meeting with his top lieutenants of the SCLC in August of 1966. He told them that he met with an FBI agent from California in January of 1966. The California agent told him that he would be assassinated by the U.S. government. So Dr. King knew he was a marked man. He thought he was going to be killed in Washington, D.C. during the Poor People campaign. But they decided to kill him in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'll get a little bit as well, because I think it's so important that people know this information. Even though I repeat myself a lot with the information, I made sure that I documented from different sources. A great book, a great source to read about the Dr. King assassination is Dr. William Pepper's The Plot to Kill King. I had a chance to interview Dr. William Pepper a couple times, and I'm going to interview him some more times. But The Plot to Kill King is an excellent book that details the in and out of the Dr. King assassination. It names the names. It's very important that people know this type of stuff. Names the names. And right now, I'm in the process of creating an event in Memphis in April of this year that tells and talks about the truth about the Dr. King assassination. There are a lot of things that we take for granted when we look at the assassination of Dr. King and other leaders like Malcolm X and Fred Hampton Sr., and the list goes on and on. JFK, RFK. Get this book and read it. It's very important. Dr. William Pepper was James Earl Ray's lawyer, his last lawyer. I'm going to tell you something as well, too. James Earl Ray never admitted that he killed Dr. King. He kept his innocence on that. He spent 30 years of his life in prison, and he would never claim that he actually killed Dr. King. He pled guilty. And the case is complicated. It's interesting because he never had a trial. So he pleaded guilty based on intimidation and on pressure. But he never pled to the fact that he actually killed Dr. King. He never kept his, they even made a deal with him. William Bradford Huey, the world famous journalist, this is the same guy who interviewed the brothers who killed Emmett Till for Look magazine. He tried to get James Earl Ray to strike a book deal with him, saying that if you admit that you killed Dr. King, they will let you out, get you a lot of money for your story, change your identity, change your name. He refused to do it. James Earl Ray died from, I think, cirrhosis of the liver, from complications of hepatitis C. He was diagnosed with hepatitis C, I believe, back in 1994. Now, I'm going to tell you something, that's how dirty this thing is, right? James Earl Ray was going to get a liver transplant free of charge from the University of Pittsburgh. You had private citizens and organizations who were willing to raise the money to transport him from his prison in Tennessee to Pittsburgh to get the operation. They was going to pay for the transportation and security costs. And the state of Tennessee did not allow him to get that life-saving transplant. Had he got that transplant, he would have lived long enough to probably get a trial that would have changed the game. But nonetheless, Dr. William Pepper was able to work with the King family to get the white business owner, Lloyd Jowers, to come to court for a U.S. civil court trial. And they was able to get the truth out anyway. The truth was able to come out December 8th, 1999. The reason why a lot of us don't know about this is because there was a media blackout, U.S. media blackout. Because you got to understand who controls the media. You know, like the Washington Post, they got this movie out with Meryl Streep. I guess she's going to win another Academy Award or get a nomination. She plays the owner of the Washington Post during the time of the Watergate scandal. What people don't understand is that newspapers like the Washington Post or New York Times, they've been very much compromised by the U.S. military intelligence complex. A lot of the key players involved in the dissemination and control of information and news have close ties to the Pentagon, to the U.S. intelligence community. You look at Hollywood, a lot of these movies and stuff, a lot of these scripts have to get the okay and blessing and the funding from the Pentagon and from U.S. military intelligence. Think about this. Where you get your news from? Rumors of wars and wars. You think about the fact that look at something like 60 Minutes. You know, 60 Minutes is a well-known news institution, right? But a lot of their consultants are connected with the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. And then, most powerful institutions like Baba Dick Gregory taught us run on information. So you got a lot of these organizations involved in news dissemination. Same thing with the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. J. Edgar Hoover was a librarian when he was in college. When he was going to George Washington University in D.C., he used to work at the Library of Congress. See, his power didn't come from a gun. It came from controlling information. He was an information gatekeeper. So you look at a lot of these news organizations, they work hand in hand with the military intelligence and U.S. intelligence agencies. And so you look at what happened to Dr. King towards the end of his life. He was demonized by the media, like papers like the New York Times and the Washington Post, demonized Dr. King, painting him as a pariah. And you look at all this stuff. Dr. King came out against the Vietnam War April 4th, 1967 in Riverside Church up in New York City. He was dead in Memphis, Tennessee, April 4th, 1968. And once again, the book you should get to read is The Plot to Kill King, The Truth Behind the Assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. William Pepper is also now currently the lawyer of Sirhan Sirhan, the guy who's been accused, the Palestinian American who has been accused of killing Robert F. Kennedy, which also this year will mark the 50th anniversary. That happened just 2 months after Dr. King's assassination. What's interesting about RFK and MLK, both of these men were killed at hotels or motels. RFK was killed at the Ambassador Hotel out in L.A. Dr. King was killed at Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. And there's a lot of things that when people talk about what happened to Dr. King really should be better understood. For example, the person who was in charge of the Memphis Police Department and the Memphis Fire Department was a guy named Frank Holloman. Frank Holloman was J. Edgar Hoover's #3 man at the FBI. He worked for J. Edgar Hoover for 25 years. He was a G-man. He was one of his top guys. So this is a guy who controlled the police and fire department in Memphis. He just got there not too long before Dr. King made his final visit to Memphis. When Dr. King used to come to Memphis, he had an all-black Memphis police security detail. All-black Memphis police security detail used to guard Dr. King. I talked to the guy who organized the all-black police security detail, Captain Jerry Williams. I had talked to him. His interview is available on our We All Be TV channel. Dr. King only stayed at the Lorraine Motel one time, and that was the time he got shot. Once again, Dr. King stayed at the Lorraine Motel only one time. He used to go there for meetings and whatnot and connect with the community, but he never stayed overnight at the Lorraine until that night, April 3rd. Then he got killed April 4th. He used to stay at the white hotels like Holiday Inn, places like that. Holiday Inn was actually created in Memphis. So Dr. King was an integrationist. He used to try to stay at the white hotels. So that's interesting. So he was actually race shamed into staying into the Lorraine Motel by the local media. They actually announced where he was staying at on the news. They actually not only announced the name of the place, but also his hotel room number or motel room number. And his motel room number was changed by somebody from his inner circle at the SCLC. Walter Bailey had him in a secluded, more private area, and it was changed to the balcony room 306 by somebody in his inner circle. We also know that his inner circle was very much compromised with agents and informants. One of the people who worked at the SCLC in the Treasury, I think he was a financial accountant and the executive leadership who had access to his itinerary, was an FBI agent or informant named James or Jimmy Harrison. He's worked for the SCLC. So he's on the SCLC payroll and also getting paid by the FBI to report on the whereabouts of Dr. King. This is a guy named Jimmy or James Harrison, actual FBI agent. Just like, you look at Malcolm X with the Nation of Islam, the national secretary was a guy named John Ali, who was FBI. He was actually responsible for the correspondence between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. So you don't know what got lost in the sauce, because he controlled the information between these two men that helped lead to the schism between Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. And another thing with Malcolm X, when he used to speak at the Audubon Ballroom, he would normally have three dozen NYPD officers around the vicinity. Normally there'd be three dozen, 36 police officers around the Audubon when Malcolm spoke. And the day he got hit, there were hardly any police officers in the vicinity. And his chief bodyguard, Eugene Roberts, was undercover NYPD. He actually also helped set up Tupac's mom, Afeni Shakur, and the other PanTHEr 21 as well, too. So I just want to let you know how deep this stuff goes, COINTELPRO, things of that nature. Yeah, the media is definitely the propaganda wing of white supremacy. Yeah, yeah. Oh, people talking about Freemasonry. Yeah, you know, we had the Confederacy, the statues as it came down, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that because I think it's fascinating. I was there tonight when they brought down the Confederate statue here in Memphis of Nathan Bedford Forrest. Now, Nathan Bedford Forrest was a notorious slave trader, a war criminal, and the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, of the Ku Klux Klan, right? I was there that night. It was a very interesting night. Now, I wasn't in agreement with them taking down the statues. This is why I wanted to happen. I went to the rally every year for the last 112 years at that location with Nathan Bedford Forrest statue. See, people don't understand the remains of him and his wife is also buried at that location where the statue used to be, the equestrian horse statue. Their bodies are still there. They've been there for over 112 years. For the last 112 years, you had the sons and daughters of the Confederacy used to go to that location to honor Nathan Bedford Forrest every Sunday before his birthday. Nathan Bedford Forrest's birthday is July 13th. He was born July 13th, 1821. So for 112 years, you had hundreds, some years even thousands of white people from around the country and even around the planet will come to pay homage to Nathan Bedford Forrest. You had Civil War reenactors, horses, you had dogs, you had people carrying guns everywhere, Confederate flags flying everywhere. They even had watermelon and forest water because Memphis in July. So it was very hot. But they were dedicated, you know. You just come here all the time. For the last 3 years, I would actually go down there and interview and interact with these people and observe their tradition. And I admired their consistency and their dedication to their cause. Albeit a lost cause, I admired it because they was doing it for over a century. They did it, you know, rain or shine. No matter how hot it was, they would come and honor their hero. But what is fascinating, as I told people tonight when the statue came down, is across the street is a Scottish Rite building. Freemason Scottish Rite building right across the street from the statue and the burial ground of Nathan Bedford Forrest. And what people don't understand is Albert Pike, who is a fascinating figure. He was a Scottish Rite, third degree Freemason. He actually used to live in Memphis back in the 1860s. He was friends with Nathan Bedford Forrest. He is the only Confederate general with a statue in Washington, D.C. He's the only Confederate general with a statue in Washington, D.C. And he was from Boston. And he like a big old giant Santa Claus looking dude, like, you know, over 6 feet tall, 300 pounds. But he also was a Confederate general over Cherokee Indians for the Confederacy. So you had Cherokee Indians that owned slaves. You had that recent lawsuit that the descendants of freemen won against the Cherokee nation, this past summer, where they were given reparations by the Cherokee Nation. You can look this up online. Take a look. It's all online. All the information is online. So, with that said, Albert Pike is the founder of the Ku Klux Klan. So you had the founder of the Ku Klux Klan, who was friends with Nathan Bedford Forrest, the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. They both lived in Memphis during the 1860s, both Democrats. Albert Pike controlled the Democratic Party here in Memphis during that time period. Nathan Bedford Forrest was a city councilman at one point and also a delegate to the 1868 Democratic Convention. So, yeah, the Ku Klux Klan is an invention of the Democratic Party. But to have his monument right across the street from the Freemason Scottish Rite building is very fascinating because Albert Pike, like I said before, he was a third degree Freemason Scottish Rite. And people talking about taking down statues, don't you know, in Arkansas, right across the river from Memphis, is a place known as Forest City, Arkansas. It's called Forest City, Arkansas. It was founded by Nathan Bedford Forrest himself, and it's predominantly black, basically 90% black. The irony. So they take down the statue, but they got a city that he founded that is named for him, right across the river from Memphis. You take it down the statue versus he has a city named after him. Then not to mention he has like high schools. He has a county in Mississippi, Forest County. He got a couple of places named after him. And my issue was not with the statue of itself. I felt that the black people, the citizens of Memphis, Memphis is a majority black city. The citizens, the descendants of the people that he terrorized, that Nathan Bedford Forrest terrorized in his lifetime, should not be paying for the upkeep on the statue. The money for the statue was raised by the daughters of the Confederacy. It was built in Italy. It was dedicated in 1905 on top of the remains of Nathan Bedford Forrest and his wife. And they've been honoring it, ever since that time. But now it's been taken down. Of course, y'all all know about the black folks who basically beat the white folks to their own game, found a loophole, started a nonprofit to buy the land. And now the statue's in an undisclosed location. But it's going to be interesting to figure out what the white folks going to do. Because, white folks, they don't let things rest now. They're not used at black folks beating them at their own game. So they got something coming soon. And what's the interesting thing about this, too, is that the guy who's the spokesperson for the Sons of Confederacy, for the statue and whatnot, he actually works with the Shelby County Sheriff's Department. So he works with the police. He's a police officer. So, people talk about race soldiers and all this stuff. They always been like that. You look at the civil rights movement history. Look at what happened to the 3 civil rights workers, Swarner, Cheney, and Goodman down in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The sheriff department had something to do with that because they was part of the Klan. So you had the sheriff and the sheriff deputy working with the Klans down there to kidnap and murder these guys. See, you got to understand, the sheriff in the South is God. The sheriff controls the drug trafficking, all types of stuff. Even the situation that happened with Michael Jordan's dad allegedly had something to do with the sheriff who ran the county down there. And allegedly one of his relatives was running drugs. And that sheriff's dead now. But that's an interesting story. But even with the Emmett Till thing, there's a lot of misinformation out there. I know somebody said that the Klan was founded in Memphis. No, the Klan was founded in Tennessee, in Pulaski, Tennessee. I think they made Nathan Bedford Forrest the Grand Wizard at a hotel, the Maxwell Hotel, I believe, in Nashville. But Memphis definitely plays a part. There's no mistake why they had to kill Dr. King in Memphis. Memphis is a very interesting place. But yes, in April, the We All Be Group Incorporated, we're planning on having a program with the community involved to talk about what really happened to Dr. King April 4th and the day after, April 5th. Because now they're saying, once again, get this book here, The Plot to Kill King, The Truth Behind the Assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. William Pepper. They're saying now that Dr. King was actually killed at St. Joseph's Hospital by the chief surgeon, that the chief surgeon put a pillow over his head. First, the chief surgeon allegedly spit on his face and put a pillow over Dr. King's head to suffocate him. So that's what they're saying now. But what also was not talked about, because I'm glad you talked to the old timers, was left out the story is that it was a black activist in Memphis who actually died under questionable circumstances at St. Joseph's right before Dr. King did. Her name was Sister Katie Sexton. Sister Katie Sexton was the wife of a preacher man. She was very well known in the community. They were protesting, my understanding, outside St. Joseph's one day, and she fainted. But when she came through, she told the people, please do not check me into St. Joseph's. I won't come out alive. But yet they checked her into St. Joseph's anyway, and next thing you know, she's dead. And there's not too much information you can find on her on the internet, but they do have a community center in North Memphis named for her called the Katie Sexton Community Center. But there's not a lot of information out there on her. And that's why I think it's so important that, utilize tools like YouTube and the internet, that we got to be real content creators for the information that we seek. because her story should be better known. She should not be. She's not even a footnote like she should be. She's just she's invisible. But given with this Me Too movement, all this other stuff going on, it's time for those stories to be talked about and better known. So that's very important. Thank y'all for receiving the information. Like I said, also, we all be like, I know I talk a lot. I'm sorry. I'm in the process of getting the phone line and doing what everybody else is doing. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of times I never see myself doing stuff that I'm doing now. It's kind of, I'm very reluctant to do this stuff. There's a lot on my mind. It's like everybody got so much to say about stuff. I don't think that my opinion is that important about things, but I do want to be able to use this platform to get some things on people's mind about what's going on, because the past is never past. In the words of William Faulkner, the past is never past. So it's so important that we understand, or rather overstand, because a lot of things that's happening right now has always been happening. Always been happening. And I'll get back to Dr. King. But also I want to talk about this movie, The Shape of Water. The Shape of Water. This movie that came out last year with Octavia Spencer. To me, she channeled the spirit of Hattie McDaniel. She always playing the help. She always stay employed. It's like she's the anti-Monique. Like, compare and contrast careers of Octavia Spencer with Monique. They both played award-winning, Oscar-winning roles. But look at what happened to Monique versus when she won an Oscar, and deservedly so. Versus what happened to Octavia Spencer since she won her Oscar in The Help. She's always playing the help, but she stay employed, and I gotta give her props on that. But the movie The Shape of Water, about this amphibious creature during the Cold War. This white woman falls in love with this monster. To me, it echoes of bestiality. Echoes of bestiality, y'all. It was actually very enjoyable because the cat who directed the movie, I think he did Blade too. And people got to give props where props is due. If it was for Wesley Snipes and Blade, there would be no renaissance in the Marvel Universe going on right now. So really, once again, black people, black lives matter when they're making white dollars. And we don't talk about that narrative. But The Shape of Water was actually a very watchable and enjoyable movie. But I noticed stuff. Like, once you start having a certain awakening in your mind and your consciousness, you can't go back. Maybe I start over-analyzing things. But I noticed in the movie, because Octavia Spencer did a wonderful job. She played the custodian lady. She was best friends to the lead, the white woman who played the mute, who was the love interest of this amphibious monster, Frogman, whatever the hell it was. But all the characters except Michael Shannon. Now he's one of the kings of playing the heavy, right? I mean, he loved playing those dark characters. He's very good, very adept at playing dark characters. He plays them dark, but he makes them so likable. Michael Shannon, the guy with the big head, who played in Boardwalk Empire. He played a mafia hitman. He's always playing these very dark. He even played Elvis in Elvis versus Nixon, which I thought was a Mandela Effect movie because they did an Elvis meet Nixon movie about 20 years ago. So I knew it was the Mandela Effect thing going on. And people said, what's the Mandela Effect? Let's look that up. So anyway, Michael Shannon, everybody had a strong part in that movie except for the black man. The husband of Octavia Spencer in the movie. This man was so emasculated. When he spoke, he was incoherent and he was mumbling. And when it was time to stand up for his woman, man folded like a chair, like a folding chair. And I thought it was interesting. All the characters, all the highlighted characters, ones that had dialogue and had a part of the story, all of them were strong characters except for the black man. Except for the hetero black man. He was the weakest character. Even the mute lady's other best friend, a gay white man, had more backbone and more strength in his character than this black dude. And I just thought that was very interesting. That this movie, even though I was enjoying the movie overall, that I noticed the fact that this black man, who had a chance to be a man, failed the manhood test. and how that resonates. Because a lot of people, oh, just a movie. No, these are not just movies. You had a movie called Birth of a Nation that resurrected the memory and of the Klan. They resurrected the Klan, actually. You know, you had a movie that did that. Movies are propaganda. Art is propaganda. You know, media, all this stuff is propaganda. They're trying to promote something here. So The Shape of Water, yeah, it was very interesting when I saw that movie. I would like to get other people's opinions on it, you know, The Shape of Water, you know. But it's also, this is Oscar season. The only award show I really look at are the Oscars. College found this is such a litmus test for society. Like what's going on right now. I could see Frances McDormand winning for her movie 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Or Misery. Ebbing, Missouri. 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Also Sam Rockwell. He played a racist, a violent, a good old boy cop. You know, I can see them both winning Oscars because of the Me Too stuff going on right now and all this stuff. I mean, I just think it's fascinating, man. The times that we're living in. I saw the Oprah Golden Globe speech, and I am very glad that people are using their platforms to speak out, not necessarily against Oprah, but of the hypocrisy of the system. I mean, like, as soon as she said something, you had Seal and all these other folks coming out with pictures of Oprah embracing Harvey Weinstein. And she wins the Cecil B. DeMille Award. And people don't understand about Cecil B. DeMille. Them guys, they are the architects of the casting couch. Hollywood was built on the casting couch. I had a friend from college. She wanted to become a director in Hollywood. She's a woman, talented, beautiful woman, intelligent. She had connections. Her family had all types of connections in the industry. But yet, she told me she had to leave Hollywood because every time she tried to get a job, it's always they pointed to the couch or they saying, well, you know, you got to sleep with me if you want to get this part. And here's this woman, college educated, you know, talented. She said, the hell with it. She left Hollywood and went back to school to become a successful college professor. She made a choice. Like Judge Joe Brown said several times on the show, people make choices. You don't have to sleep your way to the top if you don't want to sleep your way to the top. You pay to play. And there's a price for everything you want, you know, if you pay to play. So it's interesting to see Oprah get up there and basically blood sacrifice the memory of Reese Taylor. And I knew about this story for several years with Reese Taylor. I was looking forward to one day meeting her, but unfortunately, Father Time had other plans and other things like that. But to use black women pain to sacrifice at the altar of white inferiority to make sure she becomes president. I don't want to see her as president. I don't have nothing personal against Oprah. I don't really care for all this celebrity stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't really care. I don't believe that one person holds the key to everybody's salvation. That Jesus complex, that Messiah complex a lot of us have. You hold the key to your salvation and liberation. You must dream, decide, and do for yourself. Donald Trump did not destroy your life. Donald Trump, he does not factor in my life at all. He's Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like, people like distractions too much. It's like bread and circuses. I don't look for Oprah to put anything on the line for black folks. She's being used as a prop, as a piece of propaganda to say, you know, oh, look, black people, Oprah made it. How come you can't make it? And yet these folks be the torchbearers of Dr. King's legacy. Dr. King didn't become dangerous till he realized that, hey, what good is it to sit at a restaurant if I can't afford the hamburger? When Dr. King realized that economic justice was just as important as so-called integration, even now more so than ever, because you had 50 years ago, when Dr. King was walking the earth, the American economy was booming. It was way different than what it is now. It was expanding. You could drop out of high school back in 1967, 68, get a factory job, support a family of 4, work that same job for 30 years, retire on a good pension, send your kids to college. Those days are long gone. So you can't compare 2018 to 1968 in favorable ways within, you know, relates to the economy. They actually was trying to fight for a piece of the pie. You had strong unions, labor movement, all types of stuff going on back then. People very engaged with the process. But Dr. King's last speech in Memphis was about boycotting places that will take your money but won't give you a job. Dr. King talked about in his last speech, you can look this up online. You can get the transcripts. You can actually see him saying it about boycotting Wonder Bread and Coca-Cola and Harsh Bread. All these places, they'll take your money but won't give you a job. About investing in black insurance companies and banks and black businesses. Dr. King he saw that, you know, and before he could turn that corner, they shot him in the face. So I would encourage folks to not let Dr. King's legacy be controlled by the Oprahs of the world and by the corporations who conspire with a system to murder him because he wanted to help poor people. Look at what happened with Walmart. What would Dr. King do with the Walmart and Sam's Club situation? You know, Sam's Club, they closed almost 70 Sam Clubs, my understanding, around the country without any type of notice to the people. They said they're going to raise the minimum wage at Walmart to $11 an hour. But here's the tragedy. To my fight for 15 people to the $11 raise, minimum wage is supposed to be almost $30 an hour. Let me repeat. Minimum wage, if you adjust to the cost of living, should be almost $30 an hour. And we talking about $11 an hour. We talking about $15 an hour. See, they let you know that the system does not like an educated, informed people. Because if the people was better informed and better educated, they could demand things. They would know their value, not settle for the BS. Because we're settling right now. Walmart could have kept Sam's Club open, but you know it's a business. It's not a charity. It's a business. Sam Walton, if he was alive today, would have so much more money than a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett. Not Mansa Musa money, but he had way more money because he died and his fortune was split among his children. I mean, these people, man, you got folks working at Walmart for 40 hours, can't afford to pay their light bill or get food. They got to get EBT cards. You got the government subsidizing corporations, and y'all talking about welfare. The biggest welfare recipients in America are corporations. You know, the Supreme Court said they were people. And then the biggest welfare queens, these corporations, like Queen Walmart, the biggest welfare frauds, okay? So don't tell me about stuff. I remember this past December, I was at a birthday/Christmas party for a friend. And I was talking to some of the young people, young black males there. Talking to his brother from high school. And I asked him what he thought about reparations. And he said, I mean, this guy was a very intelligent brother. Making great grades in school. Top level Eagle Scout, traveled the world, even had dinner at the Vatican at one point. So I mean, this is a young black man that's destined for greater and better things. And he said, well, I don't agree with handouts. I said, excuse me? He said, reparations is handouts. I said, brother, reparations is nothing but wages and money and work owed to your ancestors with interest. This country was built by our ancestors with no type of compensation. And they gave their blood, sweat, and tears for the building of this corporation. But they never got paid or compensated for it. So reparations is nothing you earn. It's something that was earned by your ancestors, by our ancestors, that is owed to their descendants. Because you cannot build wealth in this country without generational wealth. And the generational wealth that white folks have used to build their family wealth have been stolen from our family. And that's what Dr. King was dealing with. He was talking about a redistribution of wealth in this country. Make struggle the new normal. Struggle should not be the new normal. We should fight for what we want. Dr. King said if a man ain't willing to fight for anything, he ain't fit to live. We should fight for what we want. Should be willing to die for what you want. And you should be willing to live to the fullest for what you want and what you advocate for. Frederick Douglass, power concedes nothing without demand. But you know what the thing about it is? We always talk about Dr. King had a dream. But do you have a dream? A lot of times, I like to ask people this question. A simple question, not a trick question. What do you want? Do you know what you want right now? A simple question. Anybody out there know what they want? Do you know what you want? Because the thing about it, yeah, I agree. $11 should be teenagers' wages. Sleepy hollow tips. I agree with that. People gotta understand, what do you want? A lot of times people get in trouble because they don't know what they want. What they say, the idle mind is the devil's playground. The idle mind is the devil's playground. What is that you want, out of this life? Dr. King was just 39 years old when he was assassinated. Malcolm X was just 39 years old when he was assassinated. Medgar Evers was just 37 years old when he was assassinated. But they knew what they wanted. They had a vision. All three of these men had visions. They were willing to sacrifice themselves for their vision. What do you want? Do you know what you want? I have met people in their 80s don't know what they want still. Never knew. Never had a clue. So, I mean, it's something to ponder. Also, January the 18th marks the 57th anniversary of the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister of the Congo. That's Patrice Lumumba. He was assassinated by the Belgians and the CIA. He was just 35 years old. And what people don't know, too, I take pride in this. I actually had a chance, Baba Dick Gregory's wake at Howard University back on Friday of September the 15th of last year. I had a chance to meet Dave Chappelle again. I met Dave Chappelle for the first time in Memphis in 2002, but I met him again along with his mother, Dr. Yvonne Sion. And I did a video about that, about how she was selected by Patrice Lumumba himself. When Patrice Lumumba came to America back in the summer of 1960, he was trying to meet with Dwight Eisenhower, the president of the United States. He was refused a meeting with Eisenhower, but he was able to meet with other people in the community. And Dr. Yvonne Sion was 22 at the time. And he was very impressed with Dr. Sion. He offered her a job in his cabinet, helping organize the Inga Dam project. I mean, a high-level position in his cabinet. Just 22 years old. And she went over there to work with Patrice Lumumba. This is Dave Chappelle's mom. Now you know who Dave Chappelle is because you know who his mom is. She's a beautiful woman. I look forward to having her on the show in the very near future to interview her. But, I mean, Dave Chappelle is my favorite comedian living. And to know that he comes from people like that, just like with Tupac. You look at Kanye West. All these men come from very fascinated, intelligent, confident black women. And I just think that's very fascinating. If you want to learn the son, learn the mom, So with that said, Patrice Lumumba was assassinated by the powers that be. That's what I'm saying. Let's talk about another movie now, the Black Panther. I know a lot of us are very excited to see this Black Panther movie. And this speaks to the sad state of black affairs, that we look to a superhero movie for any type of hope of black leadership. A superhero movie. A superhero movie. Black Panther. We can't have real heroes because they get killed. Because the powers that be said, fuck y'all. We're going to kill your real heroes. We'll give y'all some fucking superheroes. Fuck that shit. We let y'all dream of fantasizing of being free. We make your freedom struggle a fetish. We'll make your freedom struggle a fetish. You killed Patrice Lumumba. You made sure that the people had no shrine to his memory. Don't you know they destroyed his body? They shot him up, they cut him up, chopped him up, put his body in acid, made sure there was this non-existent. And I remember I saw this documentary recently about the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. He was betrayed by his friends. Of course, there's always a betrayal. It's the Judas factor. Mobutu ended up taking over the Congo, controlled by the Western powers because they wanted that cobalt and other stuff. And it was a Belgian on there, some old evil bastard. He had in his possession 2 of Patrice Lumumba's teeth. It was a prized possession. He had it all wrapped up and preserved. He said, "Oh, that's a 2 teeth. He got good teeth. He had a great teeth." I said, this bastard he didn't think about even returning that to the family of Patrice Lumumba. He kept that for himself for decades as a reminder of what they did. White folks got that type of weird fetish with black bodies. Just like with lynchings. You had black folks getting hanged. Then afterwards, they cut up the body pieces, save it as souvenirs, sell the body pieces at stores as trophies, take pictures of the mutilated bodies, use it as postcards. Okay, this is the type of people that you're dealing with. I remember I went down to Southampton, Virginia, after the movie Birth of a Nation came out, the Nat Turner movie, the second Birth of a Nation, and I went down there, and I talked to the clerk of the county, and he gave me a tour. And I interviewed him. They still got Nat Turner's sword down there in the county office. My understanding, the day the movie came out nationwide, that the skull of Nat Turner was returned to his family. That's right, boys and girls, scholars and laymen. The skull of Nat Turner was returned to his family. See, what happened was they killed Nat Turner. They stripped his body down. They made furniture, wallets, all types of stuff out of Nat Turner's body. You got people to this day that got furniture made with Nat Turner's body parts, part of their family heirloom. The guy talked about it, the clerk that I interviewed. It's on my We All Be TV channel. You can look up the interview I did with this guy. That skull was passed down for generations, and the skull was finally returned to the family. But this is what they do. I mean, they say up in the Skulls and Bones headquarters up in Yale University, there's the skull of Geronimo, the famous Native American freedom fighter, that the skull was stolen by Prescott Bush, I believe, the patriarch of the Bush family, and it was given to the Skull and Bones, the same secret society that produced all these presidents. So you're dealing with some very fascinating and sick individuals. You talk about justice, equality, you talk about freedom. This is what you're dealing with, this system. You look at some of these lynching photos of the people. These are not no monsters. I mean, they doctors and lawyers and children skipping school, judges, just everyday people doing monstrous stuff, right? So getting back to the Black Panther thing, it's funny that they're pushing this movie, and black folks, they all in love with this movie. But yet, the same powers that give us the movie Black Panther, the same powers are also responsible for the rape of Mother Africa, for the assassination they decapitated black leadership in Africa. Look, Patrice Lumumba was just 35 years old when he died or was killed. Think about Steve Biko. I think Steve Biko was 31. Look at Thomas Sankara. He was like 39 or something like that, or 37. I mean, think about how these brothers were allowed to live. Imagine how America would have been if Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Madison and Adams were all killed before the end of the Revolutionary War, or they was killed before they could make their contribution, Bills of Rights and shit, and Constitution and Declaration of Independence. Imagine what they did to Haiti. You know, I mean, you just look at that. And we're okay with cartoons, not realizing really that a lot of these superheroes are based on black people anyway. That's our story. I don't mind go back to the days of Osiris and Isis and all that stuff. Or Set, you know, I'm talking about you can look at recent history. Man, Charlie Parker, one of my favorite musicians, right? There's an interview of Charlie Parker talking about his career right before he died. He was interviewed by another jazz musician named Paul Desmond on the radio, and they asked Charlie Parker how he gets so good or how he become great at what he did. And you can listen to this online in his own voice, and it's worth listening to. And he said basically what he did was for four to 5 years, he practiced his saxophone 11 to 15 hours a day. That's what he said. He practiced his saxophone 11 to 15 hours a day for 4 to 5 years. Imagine if you did anything for 11 to 15 hours a day for 4 to 5 years, how great you would be. Forget how much talent you had when you started, but just having the type of repetition, that's a part of learning, repetition. But, I mean, that's amazing. Or talk about Harriet Tubman, who had head surgery with no anesthesia. They did major head surgery on Harriet Tubman with no anesthesia. And they always want to discredit or downplay her role. She was a spy. She was a military strategist. I mean, Harriet Tubman was so much more than what they try to make her. And you look at Jack Johnson, crying out loud. You look at any of our people. We have done some amazing things as a people that we don't get credit for because we don't take the time to tell our stories. We wait for a Stan Lee or a Steven Spielberg or somebody to come along to tell our story. And really, you do yourself a disservice when you don't tell your story or know your story. You know, you do yourself a very much disservice. Like, remember the movie Public Enemies came out with Johnny Depp playing John Dillinger. The real, they try to give the Public Enemies the credit for creating what is now known as the FBI. But the FBI was made by taking down Jack Johnson and Marcus Garvey. Let me repeat, the FBI was made by taking down Jack Johnson and Marcus Garvey. They passed a law. Really, they called it the Mann Act, but really it was the Jack Johnson Nigger Act. Because Jack Johnson was known for having consensual relationships with white women. Consensual, but they said if you cross state lines with women for immoral purposes, you're in violation of the Mann Act. And it was all about getting Jack Johnson. Think about this. Guys from Texas. They lynching a black person every day or day and a half in this country. This man going around sleeping with white women. Marrying white women. Sleeping with white women. Driving 100 miles plus on the roads. Paying for speed tickets. Ain't give a damn. He just wanted to be who he wanted to be. He was a man. It was Jack Johnson. And I don't know if with the Me Too climate or all this other stuff, could he survive? That's another thing. In 2020, as you all know, it's the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. And I'm guessing that the powers that be, they're really trying to push this narrative of having a woman president, or at least nominees, in 2020. And I'm not really feeling an Oprah or Kamala Harris ticket. Both of them have made their careers by screwing over black folk. Kamala Harris is she's a career prosecutor. So she never defended black lives. She always, but she made her bones throwing black lives in jail for long periods of time, right? Oprah Winfrey, she thought she had a little white friend. She had a Kissy moment, like Kissy from Roots. She thought she was better than the other Negroes. She had her nigga wake-up call with her own. They own her ass. At first she was trying to depend on her white audience to get her through, but she had to go back to those black people for support, and she still lost own. So she didn't own anything. They got what they want out the deal. They own her. See, my thing is about this. It's fascinating. I asked earlier, what do you want? I'm asking now, what is success to you all? Well, how do you define success? How do you define success? Yeah, he came through. Jack Johnson was an interesting cat. I mean, people think Oprah is successful. To me, you successful when you can call your shot and not be afraid to be yourself. Jack Johnson dared to be himself. He was willing to challenge the law of the land to be who he wanted to be. He pissed off a lot of black folks as well as white people. Because everybody, you got to understand, people like control people. There's a price to be paid. I was thinking today, with this censoring in comedy, people are so sensitive now. What Dave Chappelle said in his comedy show, you got a whole country full of bitch-ass niggas, right? I was thinking, could Lenny Bruce make it today as a comedian? Lenny Bruce. A lot of people say, who's Lenny Bruce? Lenny Bruce is one of the most important stand-up comedians of all time. You might not like his come, but it was game changing because he would curse in his act, say words like nigger and spick and kike and all this other stuff, and he'll get arrested. I mean, he's doing his act at the comedy club for paying patrons. It ain't like he's out there disrupting, causing, being a public nuisance. He's actually doing this act. He's a professional entertainer doing the act for a paid audience, and the police will come in and send him to jail. So really, he's a martyr of freedom of speech, or freedom of expression. But could he survive in this climate? Because you should listen to Lennon Bruce, one of his acts. I mean, look, Ben was he was ahead of his time. But I don't know if he's even of this time, because I don't think he could have a career right now. Because he pushed it. He pushed that envelope. He paid the price for it. He died young. The system killed him. That's another thing people don't understand. People keep on thinking they're down a natural death. You're not down a natural death in this system. The system will not allow anybody to die a natural death. You are being provoked every day by this system. They are poking at you. They are messing with you. They made things harder than what it needs to be for people to live, to be decent, to be honest. That's the reality of the situation. That's the reality of the situation. But Lennon Bruce, I think about him, and people talk about Dave Chappelle. I like Dave Chappelle. I think he's very funny to me. And I'm glad that he does what he does. We need those type of thought provocateurs. It's the same thing with Baba Dick Gregory. His uses of the word nigger and stuff like that. And people get all bent out of shape about stuff. People uses of words and stuff like that. And they want to censor everybody. And, life is not fun like that. People want to push their ideas and want to be the censor police. I don't believe in censorship. I believe that people should have the right to say what they want to say, especially those who are not afraid to stand by what they say and who are willing to pay the consequences of doing that. Because you got to pay the cost. For anything you want in life, you got to pay a cost. Dr. King paid a price. He paid a heavy price. And, people always want, where's the next Dr. King? Dr. King was not well liked by his own peers. Black ministers could not stand Dr. King. Okay? Why do you think he formed that Southern Christian Leadership Conference? He had to have an organization that supported him. Even people in his own organization, they had issues with some of the stuff he was doing. Right? Towards the end especially. Concerning the Vietnam War. Concerning his Poor People campaign. But people have benefited from the sacrifices of Dr. King and others like him. But they were very critical. His letter for Birmingham jail was towards the black clergy, his peer group, But I say all this to say that no risk, no reward. No risk, no reward. And people got this thing. I'm jumping all over the place, but like even the Tariq Nasheed and Dr. Umar Johnson and Boyce Watkins, them brothers shouldn't be fighting like that. Brothers always beef, man. Shit, Elgin Cleveland and Huey Newton, Dr. King and Snick, Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Dr. Du Bois, A. Philip Randolph. We always had beef. That was everybody beef, man. It is now you got these tools now of communication that make the beefs better known. And you can hear them in real time. Shit. Ida B. Wells had some beef with Frederick Douglass. I think. Oh, she had some beef with Mary Church, not Mary Church, but Susan B. Anthony. Everybody we all can agree to disagree on some things, but you should never make anybody your leader. You should be your leader. When I mean your leader, you should have your own moral compass. Follow your moral compass. Create your own code. People say they follow Neely Fuller, and they talk about this and that, but Neely Fuller basically saying, look, individual is their own corporation. You're responsible for your organization. You are your own organization. You are your own individual. Your own business. Mind your business. Create rules for you to follow. Create your moral compass. Stop depending on folks to be your moral compass. Ron Hurd, I might have some good information. You might like the way I deliver information. I might have some information you can use, you can research that can help you better your life. But God damn it, I'm not responsible for your life. You got to be responsible for your life. Not looking for nobody to train. See, all the stuff I put out here, you should follow the information and do what you can with it. If you can't do nothing with it, leave it alone. If it speaks to you, take it and run with it and do something else with it. But you should never look for another person to tell you what to do with yourself. You should try to spend some time with you to figure that out for yourself. You know, you don't need that type of leader. People say, well, what should we do? I mean, your life is a gift. It's a present. So Reverend Ike, the great Reverend Ike, listen to some of his speeches and sermons. It's very fascinating. Some guy kept on asking him, oh, do you believe in heaven or hell? He said, I believe in the now. It's all about the now. Now. Do it now. Be yourself now. Now's the time. You know, heaven or hell is about now. This is about the now. Seize your moment, right? Seize your moment. You know, oh, another good movie. Coco. The animated movie. Good movie. Surprisingly good. Great messages in there. But I'll talk about Remember Me. You know, seize the moment. One of the lead characters. You got to seize your moment. Remember me. You can't be remembered if you don't do nothing. You can't be a has-been if you was never was. You can't be a has-been if you never was. Get out there and be something. Do something. Yep. So hopefully this is coming through. I think I'm looking at the feedback. Yeah, don't be sheep. Thank you, Manny Lamont. Don't be sheep. A lot of people say they are woke and still don't see the big picture. Whoever owns the money owns the land. Say that again, Justin Gray. A lot of people say they are woke and still don't see the big picture. Whoever owns the money owns the land. Follow the money. Bitcoin, whatever, cryptocurrency, whoever controls that controls the land. What's the most accurate MLK film to date? That's a good question, Wayne Gates. You know, purpose of movies is to entertain, tell stories. A lot of these Hollywood movies are not accurate, especially Selma was not accurate. Selma was not accurate. I would say, you know, if anything, read some books. I would check them all out. Whatever speaks to you. Check out any of the movies on Dr. King. A lot of them are worth looking at, especially documentaries and like stuff on YouTube. The Plot to Kill King, Dr. William Pepper. That's a book that I would recommend because that tells you basically, it gives you a framework for how they did it. You know, how they killed Dr. King. But there's a lot of stuff you can look up online about Dr. King. A lot of stuff that I put out there. A lot of stuff that other people have put out there. But I can't really name any accurate. I enjoyed the movie Boycott with the brother who played. He's a great character actor. I forgot his name, but they did the movie Boycott. It came out in 2000. I believe Terrence Howard played Ralph Abernathy, all people. The light skinned brigade, the light skinned king. What's the brother name? He's a great character actor. I think Wright, something like that. He also played Jean-Michel Basquiat in the movie Basquiat. He did a great job. He's a great character actor. But the movie Boycott was very entertaining. The sister who played Coretta in that movie, she played Coretta in Boycott. In Selma. And also, I want to talk about another movie too that's worth looking at. The movie Marshall, about Thurgood Marshall, that came out last year. People slept on that movie. That was actually a very good movie. The brother who's playing the Black Panther, who played James Brown, Chadwick Boseman, did an excellent job as Thurgood Marshall. I was kind of concerned if he could pull it off because you get caught up in that colorism thing. You know, Thurgood Marshall was a light-skinned dude with wavy hair, and Chadwick Boseman is not a light-skinned dude with wavy hair. But I think he captured the essence of Marshall, and I think it's a movie that you should look at more so. I was actually disappointed in the Denzel movie, the Roman J. Israel movie. I was very disappointed. Not very, but disappointed. I was, because I'm a Denzel fan, and that movie was like, it wasted Denzel talent to me because he didn't know where he wanted to be. Like, is it a John Grisham movie? Is it a Woody Allen movie? What the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? Like y'all try to do action, or what is like? Is this just dialogue? Had some great ideas, had some good talent in it, but it didn't go anywhere for me. It was like a fire stick movie. It's not a movie that you go to see in the movie theaters and spend $30 on. Okay, that's Roman J. Israel. But Marshall was good. I enjoyed Marshall, and it came from another angle. People always think about Thurgood Marshall, the Brown v. Board decision, his role in that, along with his mentor Charles Hamilton Houston. But it talked about the race and sex thing. It went there. And what I like about Marshall, what was refreshing, normally you see these black movies, they got to have a white savior. But Thurgood Marshall was actually the black savior. He played the role of the black savior. He actually trained the white boy, the white lawyer who took the lead on the case. He trained him and saved him and gave him a cause, gave him a purpose. And this is based on a true story, an actual case that Thurgood Marshall handled. But I like that. That was very refreshing to see, instead of the white savior, to see the black savior saving some white person. Instead of you having a black movie, you need a white savior and some type of John Brown type of figure. I remember the movie The Legend of Bagger Vance with Will Smith and Matt Damon. I thought that was an interesting movie because I'm trying to think of how the hell Will Smith, a black man in Georgia back in the 20s and 30s, whatever the hell it was, how he had that much freedom moving around while being lynched. He was a magical Negro. Magical Negro, man. I was like, how the hell is this Negro moving around? This is Georgia back then when they lynching mosquitoes. How the hell he get to move around and get to talk to white folks where he want to talk to them and show them a thing or two, you know? But anyway, the Marshall movie was good. It was good. It was watchable, very watchable. I recommend it highly. But here's the thing, like, brother asked me about what's a good movie for Dr. King. Like, people don't understand Thurgood Marshall. Like, you know, I know people told me about Thurgood Marshall, but Thurgood Marshall was an informant for the FBI. Thurgood Marshall used to snitch on all the black people. Now, Thurgood Marshall, he was a phenomenal lawyer. He won 29 cases out of 32 before the Supreme Court. But he used to snitch on black leadership to J. Edgar Hoover. There was a police chief convention in New York City back in 1959. Thurgood Marshall called a whole bunch of police chiefs from around the country to his room to tell them that the black Muslims were a threat, that they were un-American. Like, this is according to a police chief from Charlotte, North Carolina, named Jesse James, of all names. He was there. He said that Thurgood Marshall told him that the Nation of Islam was a threat. This is back in 1959. Dr. King didn't care. Thurgood Marshall didn't really care for Dr. King either. He thought he was a showboat. He thought he was getting more credit than he deserved. He thought he was a below average organizer. Look this up. People have a hard time believing this, but it's true, because Thurgood Marshall, his whole thing was to have a high position job in the government, in the federal government. His whole career ambition was to be a part of the federal government, and he got his wish as a Supreme Court justice. So he had a path laid before him that he went. But he was an FBI informant. He had a cozy relationship with J. Edgar Hoover. He did. It's not me saying it. You can look this up, you know. So, I mean, our heroes, you know, he got this dark side to him. It's Thurgood Marshall. He got an airport named after him in Baltimore. But I'm saying that's something that people should know about, you know. He made that deal, and he did what he had to do, you know. But that's Thurgood Marshall, but the movie was good. Had some surprises in it. I'm not going to spoil the surprises for you all. But go see the movie Marshall. And then go research the man known as Marshall, Thurgood Marshall. Very complex dude. Okay, Justin Gray said something about a Freeman Bank when he said that 99% of black Americans needed money and still needs money now. Look up Freeman Bank. Yeah, Manny Lamont. A lot of people didn't like MLK when he was alive. Greenville, 1966, KKK, NOI. Judge Joe Brown, I'll have him on soon. I know he had bronchitis So send out some prayer, positivity, and light to Judge Joe Brown. Get well soon. Was Bayard Rustin an agent? That's a good question. Well, he had an agenda. Let's put it that way. We all know Bayard Rustin had an agenda. And I mean that's why I'm saying look up this stuff, y'all. Don't let nobody be your. I'm just a fountainhead. I'm just a person who did a little bit of research, and I want to share what I know with people. I don't know it all. I'm still learning myself. Bayard Rustin is an interesting guy. He's an interesting guy. You know, he had his agenda, and like a lot of them did. You know, but it's like you look at anybody. Everybody got their shortcomings. It's like, for example, I talked about recently that I gave Tariq Nasheed and Dr. Umar Johnson both Lifetime Achievement Awards from We All Be. And I made a video about it. You know, people say, well, you know, man, I don't like them. I said, look, it's not about their personas. Like the war was about them. They used their talents to serve their people. And they have used their talents to serve their people. And the thing about it is that you are only responsible for you. You know, Charlie Parker had issues with alcohol and drugs and stuff, right? But it don't take away from him being a phenomenal musician, one of the greatest of all time, a visionary in his craft. That does not take away from that. You know, people like to talk about that. Like, I remember I saw the movie Bird with Forrest Whitaker. And Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. He's a phenomenal actor, right? The movie Bird, I used to like it. And then as I got older and learned more about Charlie Parker, I didn't like the movie that much. Because all they focused on was Charlie Parker being a junkie. It did not focus on the reason why he became a junkie. And I'm about to tell you all the reason why he became a junkie. And it's not talked about in that movie. That's why when the brother asked earlier about, can I give him any good movies on MLK, I just say, look at the ones you want to look at. This is whatever you find on MLK, look at it and judge it for yourself and figure out what you can learn from it. But with Charlie Parker was in a real bad car accident when he was 17 years old, coming from a gig in the Ozarks. In that car accident, he lost his best friend in that car accident. So he went to the hospital, was messed up real bad. They gave him morphine. So he got addicted to morphine. So it was this morphine addiction that caused him to go on this path towards drug abuse because he was dealing with this pain. And eventually tried to get himself off of the drugs. Like, he was using heroin and stuff like that. Then to get himself off of heroin, he started drinking a gallon of wine. His brother drank a gallon of wine a day. He did things to the extremes, man. He drunk a gallon of wine a day to kick his heroin habit. He was Charlie Parker, he's not going to win Father of the Year or Husband of the Year, but the motherfucker was a great, phenomenal, genius musician. And he was put here to be a musician. And, he died at 34, right? He was 34 years old. The coroner thought he was 65 years old. He just wore his body out. But, he's a brilliant black man dealing with this white inferiority system. Genius level. He's brilliant. I had relatives from Kansas City that grew up with Charlie Parker that knew him well. He used to play at my uncle's restaurants and stuff like that in Kansas City. But what I'm saying is, for me to say, oh, this is a junkie, that's all he was, right? That's bullshit. He was a black man dealing with this fucking insane system. And by some type of miracle of God, he was able to lead this amazing contribution to humanity that we still benefit from today. Just say it was Jean-Michel Basquiat. He died at 27, heroin overdose, But this guy was a black artist that broke through this white racist art world. He made his contribution. They demoralized him and criminalized. You ain't gonna say it was all bad. He was a celebrity. He made a lot of money. He dated all these women. He was dating Madonna when Madonna was a nobody. He dated Madonna when she was a nobody. You know what I'm saying? So he did all this stuff, and he died at the age of 27. And his work sells for like tens of millions of dollars now. You got rappers making music about Jean-Michel, like Jay-Z. His life story is larger than life, and his art. People criticize. They were very hypercritical of his art, but his art is here to stay. Look at Jean-Michel art. It never grows old. It's forever young, like Jean-Michel Basquiat. But you know, a good book about Jean-Michel Basquiat that came out during the time period about 15 years ago, A Quick Killing in Art, about Jean-Michel Basquiat. I read that. And there's a movie, a documentary called The Radiant Child. I believe this white woman had documentary footage from Jean-Michel when he was, you know, I guess living out in California. She would follow him around, whatever. That should be checked out. And also, we interviewed one of Jean-Michel Basquiat's best friends, Michael Holman, who's the father of hip-hop TV. He created the first hip-hop TV show in history called Graffiti Rock. He's a friend of mine. And we did a couple of interviews with him about, you know, he played in the band called Gray with Jean-Michel Basquiat. He was in that movie Downtown 81 that featured the real Basquiat. So, I mean, he has a lot of insight into Jean-Michel. And I pride myself on being able to help create primary sources for people to access and to utilize on their search, on their journey. But yeah, but if you just go by white folks, oh, he's just a goddamn junkie. Charlie Parker and Jean-Michel Basquiat were just fucking junkies. Get the fuck out of here. You're dealing with this system, man. It's a miracle that these brothers were able to leave anything of worth behind. Dealing with this insane system. And you want me to be normal? What the hell is normal? Dr. King said that human salvation lies at the hands of the creatively maladjusted people. You gotta be a little bit off to be on, to do anything in this system of power. Jimmy Smith says success is when one controls their own destiny. I hear that. And just notice, Patrice and Malcolm was killed by black guns. Who made those guns? Who put those guns in black folks' hands? Who put the drugs in the black community? No, we get caught up in blaming ourselves, not understanding how it got to this point. Was it Freeway Ricky Ross, or was it the CIA? Was it the U.S. government? Was it Frank Lucas, or was it Oliver North? Franklin Roosevelt, the 32nd president of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt. His maternal grandfather was one of the biggest drug dealers in American history. His maternal grandfather made the family fortune selling opium to the Chinese. His name was Warren Delano Jr. You know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, his middle name. He named after his grandfather. Warren Delano Jr. sold opium to the Chinese. That's how he made the family fortune. In the words of Lucky Luciano, behind every great wealth, there's a great crime. Let me say what Lucky Luciano said. Behind every great wealth is a great crime. And the person who brought down Lucky Luciano was a black woman named Eunice Carter. She was the first black DA in New York State. She worked with Thomas Huey. That's the guy's name. Thomas Huey, the guy who ran for president twice back in the 40s and lost. But Eunice Carter brought down Lucky Luciano, a black woman. Look it up. But he said that, you know, so you got people, like you look at George Bush Sr. You know, they got photos of George Bush Sr. in front of the Dow Tex building in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963. They got pictures of George Bush Sr. in front of the Dow Tex building. They said a lot of people believe that the shot that killed Kennedy, or one of the shots that killed Kennedy, JFK, came from that Dow Tex building. George Bush Sr. was Zapata Oil. You know, CIA, Skull and Bones. His father, Prescott Bush, financier of the Nazi Party. American white businessman created Hitler. Y'all keep on thinking Hitler was created out of a vacuum. Out he was created by some evil. It's called American businessmen. White American businessmen created Hitler. Standard Oil was making money off both sides of the war. They were selling oil to the Nazis as well as to the Allies. Start looking this stuff up, man. It's like this guy said war is a racket. Smedley Butler. Y'all don't know if y'all ever heard of General Smedley Butler. Look up General Smedley Butler. He said war is a racket. War is hell. Smedley Butler was the most decorated Marine in U.S. history. He won 2 Congressional Medal of Honors. A lot of times when people win the Medal of Honor, they're dead. But he won 2. He won 1 for the Spanish-American War and 1 for the Chinese Boxer Rebellion. He won 2. And he was a proud Marine. He figured out one day that all he was doing was helping set up banana republics to the advantage of multinational corporations. He was an economic hitman. He said he was a bigger racketeer than Al Capone, whereas Al Capone operated in Chicago, he operated on several continents on behalf of multinational corporations. He figured it out. A grunt, a foot soldier, figured the shit out because what happened, he was approached by Wall Street banksters. See, back in the 30s, they wanted to assassinate Franklin Roosevelt and replace him with General Smedley Butler. The Wall Street banksters did. They were afraid of Roosevelt and what he was going to do with Wall Street. So the Wall Street banksters wanted him to replace Roosevelt as president. He went to the press and Congress with it, and people laughed at him about it. They didn't believe him, but he wrote some books about it. They're available in PDF files online. Smedley Butler, the Fighting Quaker. They call him the Fighting Quaker. Yeah, he died in 1940, I believe. But he allegedly went to Congress and to the press about the coup d'etat they were planning against Roosevelt administration. And he's the one to figure it out. He figured out that he was an economic hitman. It's like with people don't understand like geopolitical history as it relates to the U.S. Like, why is Iran and North Korea why they got beef with us? They got beef. Look what happened in the 1950s, where you got a situation where the United States dropping biological warfare on North Koreans. They're not just dropping bombs, they're dropping biological warfare on the people. Shit, you had a dude, it's a docudrama series on Netflix called Wormwood. Check that out, Wormwood. It deals with the story of the CIA scientist named Frank Olson. He helped create LSD for the CIA and anthrax and shit like that. And he found out what the government was doing in terms of dropping biological warfare on the North Koreans. And his bosses feared that he would become a whistleblower. So what happened was they threw him out a plate glass window on the 13th floor of a hotel in New York City. Hotel, I think Pennsylvania or something like that. November 28th, 1953. They threw this scientist, one they own, Frank Olson, out of a hotel window on the 13th floor. To silencing him. His family ended up raising questions about what actually happened to him. Because first they were saying it was a suicide. And then the family ended up getting a settlement from the U.S. government. They met with President Gerald Ford. And who set up the meeting with the president for the family? Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney set up the meeting of President Gerald Ford with the family of scientist Frank Olson. And he apologized to the family. Because what happened to Frank Olson was national security. They said, basically they killed them. The government killed Frank Olson for reasons of national security. And the eldest son did not stop with that meeting in the 70s. He actually went so far as to exhume the remains of his father with the George Washington University forensics team back in the early 90s. And we get all the way up to they just made this docudrama series called Wormwood. It's on Netflix that theorizes what happened to Frank Olson November 28th, 1953. Now, if a government is willing to do that, then they'll be willing. Why not kill Dr. King? Why not kill a Kennedy? You know what I'm saying? If you're willing to kill your scientists, they create your weapons. Look at all this stuff. This stuff is very fascinating. Wormwood. That's the name of the show on Netflix. That's the name of the show, Wormwood. But there's a lot of stuff out there for y'all to get into. And shout out to Skip Robson grandson. What's up, brother? Just chewing the fat out here. Just talking some stuff that's been on my mind. I be seeing people go YouTube live and all this stuff, Facebook live, and I don't know what they be talking about a lot of times. Everybody got an opinion on everything, but I'm just trying to put out some information for y'all to sit on. and do something with it, not necessarily sit on. Alquan, what's up, brother? JFK assassination was a coup. Something Dick Gregory never wanted to say. I think Dick Gregory did a lot of research. I'm not going to put that on Baba to say. Baba did a lot of research into the Kennedy assassination. He actually was on TV. He was actually on TV, Good Night America, Geraldo show, when they actually introduced the Zapruder fam to the American public with Robert Groden, who's an expert on JFK assassination photographs. And people got to understand, of course it was a coup. It's always an inside job. You got to go back to Jesus. Who got Jesus? Judas. And I got a theory about the Judas thing. I don't think Judas betrayed Jesus at all because he's Jesus. Jesus knew it was coming. I would say that Judas was probably the most loyal disciple because that was revolutionary suicide, but that's another story. But JFK made a lot of enemies, man. Think about this. You look at the JFK assassination, the MLK assassination. I say it like this. CIA killed JFK. The FBI killed MLK. The people that controlled the murder investigation into to JFK was Allen Dulles, the former director of the CIA who was fired by JFK. He controlled his murder investigation. The people who controlled the murder investigation of Dr. King were the FBI. J. Hoover had no love, or maybe he had some type of weird homoerotic love for Dr. King, according to Baba Gregory. He had some weird type of homoerotic, homosexual love for JFK, but they didn't like they didn't like Dr. King. You know what I'm saying? So the people that didn't like these men, they were very powerful enemies of these men, were in control of the murder investigation. They were in control of the murder investigation. So, you know it's an inside job, right? Like even Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald, I tell people I got my own theory about Lee Harvey Oswald. I think it's fascinating. This Kennedy thing, this rabbit hole thing is fascinating. Lee Harvey Oswald reminded me of Leonardo DiCaprio out of The Departed. You know, y'all saw the movie The Departed, the Martin Scorsese film. All-star cast, Nicolas Cage playing like the Whitey Bulger character and Matt Damon as the mole inside the police. Lee Harvey Oswald worked for, when I'm getting the information, he worked for both the CIA and the FBI. And he was military intelligence. How can you explain a person being able to go disown his citizenship and go to the enemy of America during the height of the Cold War and come back with no problems and with a Russian wife? How does that happen? No, people. My theory is that the FBI, they hired Lee Harvey Oswald to spy on the CIA. The FBI hired Lee Harvey Oswald to spy on the CIA. Lee Harvey Oswald thought he was going to stop the Kennedy assassination. He was set up. He's a patsy. He didn't know what they was. He got double crossed. Like I said, there's a lot of layers to the Kennedy thing, man. There's so many things you go into. Like, for example, the movie American Made, right? American Made movie with Tom Cruise that deals with the life of Barry Seal, the drug trafficker for the CIA. That movie, you can't trust these movies. That movie will have you believe that the CIA approached Barry Seal when he was a captain with the TWA, with the, the commercial airlines, right? Barry Seal was one of the youngest airline captains in history with the TWA. 24 or something like that. He became a captain. Barry Seal worked with the CIA since he was a teenager. He was flying airplanes since he was a teenager. He worked with the Louisiana Civil Air Patrol under the guy named David Ferry. If you remember the movie JFK, the David Ferry was that weird looking white dude, little short weird looking white dude played by Joe Pesci with the fake eyeliner or eyebrows and fake hair and shit. He worked for him in the Civil Air Patrol in Louisiana when he was a teenager. So he was flying shit for the CIA. He was flying shit to Cuba when he was a teenager for the CIA. They said he was in Dallas when Kennedy got hit and helped get the killers out of Dallas. That's Barry Seal. And there's a famous picture of Operation 40. Look up Operation 40. There's a picture of him along with some other killers and heavies of the part of the CIA hit team. People like Frank Sturgis, like the E. Howard Hunts. These are the cats that were caught at the Watergate thing. They were part of the Kennedy assassination. They even say Woody Harrelson's father was a hitman for the CIA, and he was one of the tramps, allegedly, in Dealey Plaza, November 1963. Look all this up. Barry Seal, he was killed before he could talk. He was real good friends with the Bush family. You know? He was about to spill the beans. He was moving in drugs from South America to Mena, Arkansas. The only reason we know about Mena, Arkansas was because these two white boys got killed on the train tracks. These two white teenagers got killed on the train tracks. And the official story, the officials try to say that, well, they smoked some weed and they got high and they just laid on the tracks and got ran over by the tracks. And you know how white folks be. It's hell no. We're not going for that official bullshit. Like Pat Tillman family. We don't believe this bullshit you saying. We're gonna investigate. So the boys' family investigated. They had their own private investigation. Found out that Mena at that airport owned by the CIA, they were bringing in drugs from South America. You know, the governor of Arkansas at the time was Bill Clinton. And Barry Seal was a drug trafficker. He was bringing the drugs in. And Barry Seal was going to sing and then killed them. And the hitmen who were involved, you know, because the movie, they make it like that Pablo Escobar and the cartel had him pop. But if you do the research, you start saying, well, the hitman said it was a dude in military, U.S. military uniform. They gave him the directions and the okay to hit Barry Seal. And, you know, Oliver North was a real American gangster. Drug trafficker for the government. Oliver North, Ollie North. Military guy. So y'all do the math, all right? I mean, like I said, if they kill their scientists, they can kill. They don't care about killing people, man. It's a killer machine, man. But yeah, the American Made movie, it was entertaining. You know, even Tom Cruise, a small dude. This dude that he was playing, Barry Seal, was like over 6 feet tall. I think it's 300 pounds or some shit. Very charismatic. They call him the Fat Man. Charismatic cat. But I remember when they did that HBO movie with Dennis Hopper that played Barry Seal some years ago. And that's a movie to look at as well on that. But there's a lot, man, to this stuff. Like, you know, Dr. Mary Sherman, the world-renowned cancer research person who had a connection with Lee Harvey Oswald and his girlfriend at the time. They found her body all fucked up in her apartment. You know, look up Dr. Mary Sherman monkey. Look up Dr. Mary Sherman. Look that up. Now, I ain't going to get into it because there's too much stuff to the Kennedy. It's a lot of stuff. But when you start looking at this stuff, you can start figuring some stuff out. Start throwing stuff. Don't act like, you know, like I said, be your own person. Be your own thinking person. There's so much stuff out there. Oliver North, he played ball because they were about to retire him. Hey, you better play ball. You better learn the game. MLK. They said, Brother Alcorn, never do dirty work for the government. That is like doing work for the mob, but worse. They are the mob. They the real mob. We're the empire, basically. We don't know shit about other people either. This is deep. Gotta let this marinate all this week. Yeah, there's a lot of shit. Excuse me. I don't mean to curse. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. But I just want to say out there that, you know, get y'all thinking. You don't need people to tell y'all what time it is. Y'all know the world is kind of going a certain place. You can feel it in the air. Things happening. You know, I get people sometimes tell me, well, what do you think Baba would think about it? It don't make a difference what he think about it. He's dead. You know, may he rest in peace. He's gone on to the next matrix. You know, it's more important what we do about what we think. You know, is it worth our time to research these things? And then where do we go from there? I mean, what is the solution? You know, like they took down the statues here in Memphis. They took down the Confederate memorials, statues, but you don't teach people the history of those monuments, of that war. Who was Nathan Bedford Forrest? You know, so they don't teach that history. Like I said, they took down the statues here in Memphis, but there's a city across the river that he named after himself, called Forest City, Arkansas. Actually, that's the place where T.I., the rapper, that's where he was kept at when he was in prison for those gun charges. They kept him over in Forest City, Arkansas. But Nathan Bedford Forrest was a father of private prisons. He had one of the country's largest slave markets here in Memphis on Adams Street. Adams Street now is home to the juvenile court here, one of the most corrupt juvenile courts in the country. That's his living legacy. He also had a contract to use black prison labor to work land on what is now known as President's Island. It's a little island in the middle of the Mississippi River between Memphis and Arkansas. So not knowing that type of stuff. Then his great-great-grandson, he has a great-great-grandson who is Douglas Turner Ward, a black man who was the founder of the Negro Ensemble Company. That's a black man. He got a great-great black grandson. So, there's so much stuff, but the people are not being taught this stuff. If you don't have an informed populace, you can't really have a movement that is not only self-sustaining, but also it empowers and it elevates the people to a certain place, man. That's why look at a place like Memphis, the cost of living is great. I mean, it's good, it's cheap, but the quality of life is cheaper. People are not treated right here. People don't treat themselves right in places like Memphis. I mean, it's a big town, but they dumb down the people, man. They dumb down the people. They limit access to certain things, to certain individuals and groups. So that's no different than a lot of places. You got places like Baltimore, strong black population. Places like Chicago, strong black history narrative. And yet the people there are being done in certain ways that are very, very criminal. It's very criminal. You can't justify not having heaters in Baltimore city schools. There's no justification for that. But it's like even with the Tupac Biggie stuff, man. I went to L.A. recently, back in July of last year, and I went to the corner where they killed Biggie, Notorious B.I.G. People don't understand that Biggie was killed in Beverly Hills. When we think about Beverly Hills, we ain't thinking about drive-bys, right? But they killed Biggie at Beverly Hills from the Peterson Automotive Building, not that far from the La Brea Tar Pits, right down the street from the La Brea Tar Pits. And right across the street from where Biggie got shot, the intersection, was the former headquarters of Bernie Sanders in California, in L.A. His interest called the intersection of broken dreams. I haven't posted a video of it yet, but Biggie got killed 20 years ago, man, and he still is officially unsolved. But the thing about it is, there's no markers to notate that something like that happened there. Just like in Las Vegas, when you go to the intersection where Pac was shot at, there are no markers, but there's graffiti art on the telephone poles and stuff that marks where Pac got shot at. So the people have reclaimed that part of history, but there's nothing else to notate that Tupac was shot there. And that was over 20 years ago. And it's amazing to think that all this stuff happened 20-something years ago. And I was in high school, and I can always remember. I can always remember where I was at and what I was doing when I heard about the news of those guys getting shot. But the thing about it is that black pain is white folks' entertainment and profit. Black pain is white folks' profit. And when I talk about white folks, there's a lot of white people. Like Bobby Dick used to say, if you don't got the money, you can't have the attitude. So a lot of these white folks who think they white, not really white. 100 years ago, they would have been considered niggas. That's just the honest truth. They would not be classified as white folks. They would have been classified as niggas. And y'all can look that up, their unique history up on its own. But now they're making all these movies and documentaries about what happened to Biggie and Tupac, but they can't solve it. They can't officially solve these crimes. Orlando Anderson, the guy who allegedly shot Tupac, don't you know he got grown kids now? Now, he died at 98, but the dude got grown kids. He might got grandkids now. That's crazy. Think about it. But, like I said, so when I look at a lot of stuff, sometimes I look on the internet, like the sister Tanika Jones, that stuff. What happened to that? What happened to the Tanika Jones situation? That's the name, Tanika Jones, I think, or Kanika Jones. Anybody? Yeah. There should be a documentary about Skip Robinson. Skip Robinson, let me tell y'all, look up Alfred Skip Robinson, everybody. Get a chance. Look up Alfred Skip Robinson. He's a very fascinating brother. I mean, I remember when I first learned about Alfred Skip Robinson, I was down in Holly Springs, Mississippi, doing A.L.L's birthday celebration weekend. This is back in, I think, 2011. July 2011, I was down at A.L.L's museum and birthplace down in Holly Springs, Mississippi. And it was a brother who was a legally blind tour guide. He was telling me these amazing stories about his brother and about the history of Holly Springs, Mississippi. And somehow he brought up Alfred Skip Robinson. And Alfred Skip Robinson is one of them hidden figures of black liberation history. Alfred Skip Robinson. And why I say that is because it's amazing that this guy, during his brief time on the scene, he had a organization in Mississippi that allegedly had over 100,000 members. This guy was getting the shootouts with the Klan in Tupelo and other parts of Mississippi, Holly Springs. He was organizing black folks. He actually was an in-demand national speaker. He ended up becoming a member of the Nation of Islam, a minister under Louis Farrakhan. And December 86, if I'm not mistaken, he died in a mysterious car crash. He allegedly ran into a truck, an 18-wheeler, and he was airlifted, I believe, to the local Memphis hospital where he died. Questionable circumstances. But this guy was an amazing man. And I remember, we posted a speech he did at UMass like almost 40 years ago. He basically predicted the future of black people in America. He basically predicted the future of black people in America, what was to come. Because he's from Mississippi, from Marshall County, I believe. And he said in his speech that he was on a mission to kill the folks who killed Emmett Till, but somehow he started getting into the politics and organizing and whatnot. But Farrakhan did his eulogy. But if you look online, there's hardly any information on Alfred Skip Robinson that's out there. And I was lucky enough to find that speech and put it out there on We All Be TV. And also I interviewed people that knew him. One is a historian who wrote a book about Mississippi. We Will Shoot Back, I believe. Dr. Attn, Umoja, I believe that's his name. Dr. Attn, who was originally from L.A., he actually brought Alfred Skip Robinson out to the West Coast to speak to the people. And also his other brother, who's from Memphis, he actually was a comrade of Alfred Skip Robinson. I interviewed both of these men and put it on We All Be TV. But he's somebody that people should look into. I mean, why is he not better known? I talked to civil rights historians from this area nationally, and they didn't know who he was, which is crazy because he got written up in all the black magazines at the time. This is back in the 70s and the 80s. He was getting written up in Jet, Ebony, Essence, receiving all types of prestigious awards, speaking in all these colleges and universities around the country. But if you talk about him today, he's not that well known. I mean, to me, he was kind of like Malcolm X and Khalid Muhammad and all them guys put together. Farrakhan was blessed to have these type of men like a Malcolm X and a Khalid Muhammad and Alfred Skip Robinson around. He was able to, it's fascinating. That's why it's important that we tell our stories. I mean, people always talk about, I don't have the resources or the money. I mean, like technology is a blessing in disguise right now because it's made it cheap to be able to talk about these things and create products that help, support our narratives, Oh, Robinson, not Washington, like Jackie Robinson, Alfred Skip Robinson, brother Manny Lamont. Yeah, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, his death is suspicious, definitely.
especially since now they have the Civil Rights Museum in Jackson. Is he, Brother Sakim, is he in the Civil Rights Museum in Jackson? Did they make mission Alfred Skip Robinson at the museum? That's another thing, too. I know people were mad about Donald Trump, right? People were mad about Donald Trump being at the museum. But what about the governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant? Y'all know his family story? He is allegedly the nephew of Roy Bryant, one of the brothers who killed Emmett Till. Roy Bryant's wife was Carolyn Bryant. She accused Emmett Till of whistling at her, which was a lie. People said she was on a deathbed. I'm about to say the wrong thing. She's still alive as far as I know. People, even Dave Chappelle made the mistake of saying she's dead. She's not dead. Her sister-in-law died recently. But Carolyn Bryant, from my understanding, is still alive, and she lives, I believe, in North Carolina. Because the white guy, the historian who wrote the book, Timothy Tyson, he interviewed her several years ago. Then the book came out, and it was a big buzz. But Carolyn Bryant, from my understanding, is still alive. It was her sister-in-law, J.W. Malcolm's wife, Roy Bryant's half brother wife, who passed away recently. But people keep on saying that she's the one that died. So it made me wonder about why they doing that. But allegedly, Roy Bryant, one of the brothers, he, along with his brother J.W. Malcolm, and a group of black dudes, yep, it was some black folks involved in killing Emmett Till. They kidnapped and killed Emmett Till. Now his nephew is the governor of Mississippi. I'm not trying to blame his nephew. You can't help who your relatives are. Because his nephew wasn't even 1 year old when the Emmett Till thing went down. I believe he was born December of 1954. So I'm not blaming him for what his uncle did. But people are talking about Trump. But, you know, Phil Bryant put a lot of money. He got a lot of money raised into going to the museum. And rightfully so, because you got to atone for what your ancestor did. You know, so allegedly. But it was on Wikipedia that he was related to Roy Bryant, but they took it down. But I screenshot it for posterity. That's what I do. But yeah, but if they talking about Alfred Skip Robinson down in the museum, it'd be good to know. He's not now. I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's what we got to change. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, man. I mean, like, it's just, I'm glad y'all, you know, in here taking it in. I hope I'm doing a service for you all and sharing this information. I just want some stuff to get off my chest. No, I didn't see that. Brother Ron, did you see Kanye West and his father, Ray West, at the African American Museum with the tour guide being white, giving them the history tour? Wow, I didn't know. Well, you know what, though? It's interesting. White folks got more interest in our history than we do. A lot of ways, cause like they make money off of it. There's a lot of benefits for them having that interest. I remember, it's a couple things on top. Okay, like Alex Haley, for example. You know that he didn't write. Well, you know he plagiarized Roots, right? We all know that Alex Haley plagiarized Roots from a white man's book called The African, written by Harold Corlander. He wrote a book called The African, came out in 1967. Basically, Alex Haley got the character Kunta Kinte from his book, and Dr. Corlander sued Alex Haley in court and won a big settlement. Cause think about it this way: how can a dude who wrote some of the best-selling books of all time, how could your estate be broke? If you wrote Roots and Malcolm X, how did your estate end up owing money when you died? You know, think about that. It's like if the woman wrote Harry Potter, if her estate owed money when she died, she's a billionaire. She was one of the best-selling books of all time. And I know Dick talked about this a couple times on the show. Yeah, the person who actually wrote Roots and also the autobiography of Malcolm X was Murray Fisher, his editor at Playboy. You got to think about Malcolm X. You know, there's a lot of interesting things in that book, the autobiography of Malcolm X. It's a very powerful, inspirational book, but it's fair to say that Alex Haley and his collaborators took some liberties with his story. So you got to remember, Malcolm X didn't have enough time to really look at all the stuff that was going on. He was dealing with all this stuff going on the last year of his life. He didn't have enough time just to sit down and read over the manuscript or whatever. He trusted Aldous Haley to do the job. You know what I'm saying? The book didn't even come out until after he died. You know, Malcolm was just 39 years old when he died. But I say all this to say that allegedly Aldous Haley was naval intelligence. You know, he allegedly was naval intelligence. So I mean, you can look all that you want, but the lawsuit was real. The guy won in court against Aldous Haley, and it proved that Aldous Haley did not write Roots. But then I say all to say, you know, I won't be too hard on Aldous Haley. Simple fact that white folks been doing that to us for generations. Still not ideas. You actually think that Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin? That was a black person that invented the cotton gin. So I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, you know. But it's good for people to be aware of this type of stuff, you know, get that history. Same thing with Kwanzaa. The guy who so-called invented Kwanzaa, man, he was torturing black women. You know what I'm saying? He went to jail for torturing black women. And I know a lot of people to this day, including Judge Joe Brown, that don't celebrate Kwanzaa because of what happened with the US organization, the Panthers at UCLA. They got Bunchy Carter and Bunchy Carter, Apprentice Bunchy Carter and John Huggins killed. That happened this upcoming week alone. You know, you look about Lumumba. Lumumba was January 18th. Apprentice Carter and John Huggins were killed, I believe, January the 19th of 69. And then you end that year with the assassination of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr., December 4th, 1969, in Chicago. Everybody, I'm about to wrap it up and say my thing. Oh, bye. I was coming through clear enough. Yeah, Milana Karenga. Yeah, that's the brother name. If you call him brother that. But he's still around, and he has benefited a lot from this Kwanzaa thing. The slave ship thing is interesting. I mean, there were already black people here. I really believe we was already here. But some of us could have came on slave ships or whatever, or as indentured servants. And I'm glad people are asking these questions because they need to be asked. And we need to do the research. But then, like, you know, black folks been around the world. We've been here. We're the original people. Shout out to XKS 2012. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, the Devil's Punch Bowl down in Natchez, Mississippi. Yep. I mean, like I said about Thurgood Marshall, man, it's good and bad to everything, right? Everybody got their dark side, but people just need to be honest about it. Not be putting people on pedestals. No, just learn from people. Learn from it is due. I mean, we are products of our times, you know. Thank you for the salute. Just know that I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm about to wrap it up, y'all, family. I want to thank y'all. I will keep it a good work. Try to improve this stream. I hope that it wasn't too choppy. Please feel free to donate to We All Be. We got a lot of work to do. If I don't know, we got the super chat thing or we got something. Let's donate. You know how to donate to the cause because we're going to do more shows. I'm putting in a phone line and some other things as well. But I just wanted to reach out to you all because a lot of it on my mind, man. It's get overwhelming for me sometimes, and it's good to know there's people out there that are receiving the information, that our organization have done some things for the people, and I'm glad y'all able to take advantage of these things. Thank y'all so much, man. I love y'all madly. Y'all take care. I look forward to this talk. Thank y'all for informing me on some things to think about and look up as well. God bless you all, and God keep you all. One love. Brother Aquan. Man, I'm enjoying you, Brother Aquan. I'm enjoying your food for thought, man. I thank you for that compliment. Thank you, Sister Latonia. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad I was able to hear this. I was concerned about if people would be able to hear this. I know I ain't got all what people else got, but I try to be honest and I care about my people, man. I mean, to love black people, man. It's tough sometimes, man, but I love my people. And I'm glad y'all able to receive this information. Hopefully it could be benefit you. I hope that y'all take it and do something with it and research the information and add more to the conversation next time. Love you too. I'm God. Thanks. Thank you, brother Shakim. I gotta have you on the show to talk about Alfred Skip Robinson, man. Thank y'all so much, man. I'm good. Yeah, brother Aquan, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm listening back to it. Love you too. Sleep a holiday. Love all y'all. Holiday tips. I love all y'all, man. Thanks so much, International Flair. God bless you all, man. Y'all have a great night. And the best is yet to come. We all be one love.